Hello, all. Welcome back to What's On Tonight, a podcast with elaborate, quirky, and unpredictable conversations about TV, movies, and more. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
Y'all, we have the most specialist of treats tonight. With us, we have Bryan Parker, who is the supervising sound editor for the Pitt. We would like to say a big welcome to you, Bryan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We were talking just a little bit before we started recording, but we are very excited on having you. And we're going to let the cat out of the bag to tell you that we know very little about sound engineering, scoring, what it takes to do what you do. But that's also what's really exciting for us and our listeners who, if we had to guess, are also painfully ignorant on the topic. And it's just very exciting to hear from you and to get an understanding of how you and your team use sound to help make this show just even more phenomenal than it already is. So,
Yeah, as I was saying to somebody earlier today, in my department, certainly, and I think in some other departments too, but definitely in my department, if we do everything just right, if we refine the sounds that we put in and we are very judicious and careful about the unwanted sounds that we take out of the dialogue, and we get everything just right after all those hours of work, it appears to the viewer that we did nothing at all.
yeah. Oh, I like that. And that's very true.
If we're successful, it seems like it all just happened on the day that way. It sounded like that in the room. That's what the camera picked up. That those great performances from the actors started off that way, and we shipped it straight to the viewers at home if we do our job well.
Well, you are doing your job well.
And that's actually kind of a nice segue into my first question, our first question here, because we're going to ask you before we get into your work on the Pit, like, how did you get into this profession? And that question is like really important to me because I grew up being a nerd. You know, Becky and I both we were nerds. We've been nerds our whole life. But my nerddom does not extend to sound, music. I just tried to write a song for a boyfriend when I was like 19 that I still cringe every time I think about it. What you do is almost like magic to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it takes a very specific type of intelligence. So I'm really, really interested to know, like, how did you know that this was your passion? How did that come about?
Yeah. Obviously, different folks have different paths toward it, and a lot of people answer that question different ways. Mine is pretty easy to answer. My first job when I was 14, I mean, other than like a paper route, my first job when I was 14 was doing sound and lights in a theater auditorium.
Wow.
Very cool.
The first job I was setting up microphones for tap dance recitals and doing sound for the high school theater production. And there was a church who used our auditorium on Sundays while they were waiting for their church to be built in Ohio, where I grew up. And so, not that I've only ever had sound jobs because I've done other stuff, but I've taken stuff apart and been curious about the electronics of telephones and other sound devices. That's been a part of my curiosity and my nerdery from very early on. I've played some musical instruments. I played in orchestra and then band in school and so forth.
What did you play?
I played violin and then tuba and then sousaphone with a marching band when I was in high
Oh,
school.
very cool. I played the French horn.
Oh, nice.
I played the clarinet very badly. And that's actually the heart of the question I guess I'm asking is, do you feel like your brain is hardwired? Like, do you think you lucked into it and it just became something that you found out you were pretty good at? Or do you have a brain? Because I did see that, like, already that you had played some instruments and that you have done a little bit of composing. Do you feel like that you are more of an engineering nerd, or are you a music nerd?
Engineering.
Do you think that the music is just like a byproduct of that?
It's a separate lane. I was running soundboards before I started playing guitar and like writing my own songs and that whole thing. And I spent more time touring with other bands and mixing bands and running sound for jazz festivals, running sound for Irish festivals or community events. I ran the soundboard for my church in Kent, Ohio for when I was a teenager. So I've spent more time behind knobs and faders than I have like playing guitar or piano or drums or whatever. I still enjoy those things. That's a different slice of my brain, something I enjoy like for its own purpose, not like as part of my career at all.
Well, it's pretty common for people with an engineering type of mindset. And I guess that's why it feels so much like magic to me because I can't do either one. I am not mechanically inclined at all. No joke. I don't know if you've ever heard of the ASVAB. When I was a kid, it was, well, I don't know if they did it everywhere. I assume they did. When I was a kid, they would have the military come the last year or two of high school and give you this test called the ASVAB to see how inclined you were towards the military. And they would use that as a recruitment tool. We had a whole day that they would shut things down. The recruiter called to tell me basically, don't you worry your pretty little head about ever, because I did so badly on like the practical skills type of thing. And so that's why I don't know. It's very interesting to me. Most people who are in other types of arts, they're very kind of creative, esoteric types, but musicians seem to have like that function of their brain. It's tied together. Like what makes you a great engineer is also what gives you a good ear and makes you a good musician.
For some folks, yeah. Although I lived in Columbus, Ohio for, I don't know, 8 years or something, 10, I don't know. And in the community of musicians that in circles that I moved in there, fairly often I found myself providing some sort of technical or engineering support to creative people who are like, I want this to happen this way. How do we do that? And I'm like,
But they don't
okay.
have the ability that you do, right? Okay.
They like had a vision and just needed some help with some of the mechanics of how to get from here to there. And that's not just on the music side. I mean, I definitely recorded plenty of bands and mixed records and stuff then, but also like here's an artist who made like a half scale replica of the Pietà and covered it in disco ball mirrors and wanted it to spin slowly, but wasn't sure how to
That's
do
very
that.
specific. Is that real?
Yes, that's real. And like, so he needed help with like the gear ratio and choosing a motor and setting that whole thing up. And
I'm Googling that as soon as we get off, by the way. I need to see that.
um, who knows if it, I don't know if it ever exhibited or not. No, I think it did. That was an interesting time. I mean, you're familiar with Ghost Ship? You know what that was?
Uh-uh.
The movie?
No, there was an artist's space, like artist loft kind of thing where a handful of artists lived and also displayed their work and had people there. And there was a fire in 2000, I don't know, 8 or 9, something like that. And this whole place burned and some people died and a bunch of people were injured and whatever.
Oh, wow.
And from that point forward, all these creative spaces either shut down or went
Hmm.
around, like places that were like marginal permitting kind of scenarios. Like I knew one in San Francisco, and the coldest night in my life I spent in Providence, Rhode Island, on the concrete floor of a warehouse in this like artist loft space, very similar. Well, I was on tour with my band, and all these like really creative like crucibles of creative effort just had to go away because of this terrible, terrible, terrible incident
Oh.
that made shockwaves through like city planning and enforcement of those of zoning and codes that are anyway. All that is to say that like in a community like that, in an artistic space like that where I lived in Columbus, I came across a lot of really creative folks who are way better musicians than me and very creative in ways that just need an extra little push to get their idea from like out of their head and into a physical space and needed a little technical bridge, you know. So it's I feel really blessed to be in the role that I am now, where my work as a sound supervisor, supervising sound editor, I help negotiate technical challenges a lot and bring forth ideas and creativity whenever the opportunity is there. And I get a nice blend between those two things.
That's very cool.
Yeah, that's going to tag. We've got some questions about that and how that all ties together here at the end. But before we move on to the second half of that question, the ghost ship thing, was that in Ohio or was that in California?
That was in Northern California.
I do know about that. That was awful. Yeah, that was really sad.
It changed everything for a certain kind of artistic community that existed in a lot of cities across the country.
That's really a shame.
Back
It
when I
is.
was touring, we leaned on those kinds of spaces a lot, and
Yeah.
it really changed after that.
Yeah, that's pretty heartbreaking. Well, so the second half of that question though is like how did you get into the pit? How did that happen? How did that process work?
I worked with Terry Murphy. I've known producer Terry Murphy for years. Oh my God, I mean, 18 years or something socially. And we worked together on a pilot for John Wells that ended up getting completely changed around, never aired. It got retooled and became Rescue High Surf. And then Terry and I worked together on Mrs. Davis, which is on Peacock
Yeah.
and is your next great binge. It's 8 episodes. It has a perfect beginning and a perfect ending, and it has a perfect middle.
I
It's
love
wonderful.
Betty Gilpin. I can't believe I never watched. Like it was on my radar when it came out, and then
Oh,
I didn't watch it.
I'm an advocate. So Terry and I worked together on that. And then she brought me on board for Emperor of Ocean Park, also for John Wells, with the great Sherman Payne show running. And then Terry brought me on board for the Pitt
Okay.
as well. Yeah. So just a really good working relationship with her.
That's awesome. Well, one of the things we noticed early on in season one, and it was one of the biggest aha moments that we were trying to figure out, why is this so different than what we normally see on TV? And we figured out it's the lack of the, and I put in quotations, emotional music throughout the episode. And you've talked about the choice not to add music to the moments where other shows would use it to tell the viewer, this is how you should be feeling right now, which is amazing that you have pulled that off so successfully and so well that it's like, oh, it's just so well done. But can you walk us through what that creative process is like in those moments where you want to support the scene without losing that sense of reality?
Yeah. If we take a step back and start from the goal, which is realism to a fault, largely, if we start from the goal of having our audience immersed with these healthcare workers and hopefully keeping pace with their decision making, keeping pace with their energy level in the moment, then as Terry Murphy pointed out during season one, if we emphasize some storylines more than others, we support some with music more than others, then it creates a focus on the storylines that have more musical support. But our viewer, we don't know. Our viewer might identify more with a different storyline that isn't getting the same emotional strings, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same, pulsing hi-hats indicating the importance of moving fast, the way that some other medical shows might do it, right? If it's all pretty tame, and there is some music in our show, in
Right.
the most dire cases, our composer Gavin Brivik has given us some very, very subtle but twisty tension kind of moments where someone's like life is on the line, basically. So there is some music in there. But for the majority of cases, as Terry points out, our audience might very well identify with this case or might not know anything about this case, depending on what kind of life stage that they're in. Are we dealing with a sick child? Are we dealing with a sick parent? Are we dealing with perimenopause? Are we dealing with what's the case in front of us? And if we don't project the emotion we expect them to feel, almost any of these kinds of cases, then we allow them to project their own emotion onto the ones that they find the most connection with and the ones that feel like they have the most gravity.
Yeah.
That's a point well taken. And what we do in the sound department instead is we increase the density as we push towards the trauma rooms so that all the little gaps in the dialogue, my sound effects editor, Josh Adeniji, cuts specific spotted backgrounds that tell their own little story into the 6 frames in between these words or the 12 frames in between this gap in someone's performance. It's the sound of the foot operated trash can lifting up and then the snap of gloves being taken off and thrown in and then the lid closing back down. So those get spaced out and timed into the gaps of the dialogue, something that happens off camera, or like a door opening, the sound of like a spray bottle and some wiping as environmental services takes care of one of the rooms off camera. All these little moments go into the show where they fit and where they don't step on the dialogue or step on the clarity of what our cast is saying. But we ramp up that density as their uncertainty or as their tension or as their urgency increases. So the soundscape is just denser and it feels thicker and it feels more nervous sometimes. And it ebbs and flows too. There's it comes and goes. It's not just a constant thing. So we achieve the sense of a very dense environment without just sounding like a really busy mall food court, or
Yeah.
without it sounding like
Yeah.
like a big muddy wall of noise, right? We're achieving individual moments and like hundreds and hundreds of them.
So to dumb it down for us dum-dums. So they film the scene and they give it to you. Are those moments already there? And then do you have the creative choice to decide what you're going to emphasize, de-emphasize, or is this a collaborative thing where at some point you sit down and you're talking to the directors and producers, the writers about this is what's going on, and you offer feedback to say, this is what I would like to emphasize in that moment? Is that a stupid question?
No, not at all. I'll just back up 2 steps. They shoot the scene. It goes to the post-production department.
Mm-hmm.
So picture editors and assistant editors, and picture editor starts cutting, present it to that episode's director. The director gives notes, then their director's cut. Okay, cool. Cut. This scene. Let's move the scene. Let's just swap the order of these 2 scenes, or let's tighten up the timing of this. Let's make this more clear to our viewer by adding a line here, whatever. They make the choices they're going to make. And then once the episode is locked, the timeline is locked, like all the timing of all those decisions is finalized, then it comes to the sound department. I go to a spotting session with the showrunner, producers, sometimes the writer, not always, and picture editor, assistant editor, the whole post-production team. And we watch through the episode together. I clarify a bunch of items with Dr. Joe, medical technology, basically. It's terminology and how the technology works with
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Joe Sachs, and ask Scott Gemmell if he wants this to feel this way, if he wants us to feel, as an example, if he wants us to feel more distant when we're with this character in the room, more distant from the central hub activity than usual, or if we want to feel the tension and feel the activity and feel the nervousness, that the motion of all those people working, it's an emotion thing. Clarify all the stuff in the room together as we watch through the episode together, identify what all our storytelling goals are, and I suggest some ways that sound can help with those storytelling goals to make sure that I'm understanding what our goals are in line with everybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll correct me where I'm wrong, or tell me to go with my ideas if I think we've got it right. I asked Dr. Joe some questions about the difference between how a shoulder reduction sounds or a hip reduction, some cool gory stuff like
Fun
that.
for everyday conversations.
Sure. I type up a full set of notes for my team. I tell my team what to do. That's a dialogue editor, 2 sound effects editors, ADR editor, the loop group that I direct, and then our 2 mixers. I type up separate notes for all those people. They go do their thing. We start shooting ADR. We shoot loop group. I cue the ADR and loop group. I make cue sheets. Do you know what ADR is?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Additional dialogue recording is the dialogue lines that we record after shooting is finished.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So the dialogue lines that we record audio only in the booth. So, maybe there was like a small pronunciation problem that we have to fix. In some shows, maybe a scene got edited down and we have to just summarize more clearly for the audience to get from point A to point B. This happens all the time.
Right.
If there's a scene outside in the rain, then someone's lavalier gets like totally waterlogged and isn't usable. So you have to replace a whole scene of dialogue for technical reasons. Any number, just like 15 reasons why you would need to record dialogue without the cameras on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I make the cue sheets for those sessions. Then I go shoot those sessions again with Terry Murphy. She supervises those sessions too. Then we edit it all back together. I compare the work for my team and make sure that what they're doing is what I had in my head when I told them how to accomplish the goals that we collectively established.
Mm-hmm.
And I make sure that the sound effects and the Foley are playing well together. The difference between sound effects and Foley, for those who don't know, is sound effects generally are cut from libraries, or they could be custom recordings, but they're recorded as their own thing and then edited to picture. Whereas Foley is the act of performing the sound along with picture while recording audio. So footsteps are recorded or performed live to picture. Da-da, 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 watching, waiting for cues. Oh, there's a scuff. To perform, it's generally for smaller objects, like you wouldn't drive a car onto the Foley stage and record it custom. You would edit that from pre-existing recordings, right? Do I have any props that I am allowed to show you in here?
It looks like a fake hand back there on your mixing board.
That no spoilers. Yeah, there's a fake hand.
It was a
But
fake.
I'm
the
not
prop.
Ladies and
shocked.
gentlemen, he is holding up a
Well
fake
done.
hand and clapping with it.
Um, yeah, the props department is very cool about letting me borrow.
I would be doing that all day, every day. I really,
Even if that weren't my job, I'd be like, can I just take this home?
yeah. One day we
Yeah,
have a dream of getting somebody from the sound or from the props department on specifically for the pit because it just like what
yeah.
they accomplish is insane.
I would love to
Fascinating.
know about their organizational system and how they keep it all straight. Because
Right?
I'll give them a list of like, hey, I need an ET tube. I need a couple of fenestrated drapes, a couple of kidney basins. I need this specific thing. I'll send a list, and I'll get an email back like within an hour. Yep, they're on Terry's desk. So I don't know
Wow.
how they find all that stuff or like what the system is for keeping it all straight. I'm sure it's its own challenge for every show, but we have a lot of specialized equipment.
I was going to say before we move on from this question that one of the things I think is a benefit of, and probably one of the reasons behind not wanting to overemphasize one scene over another is that it's very specific to this show that a lot of times you don't know which storylines are going to end up being these multi-episode arcs. And I imagine like if you were to do that, it would give things away. And that's one of the things that the show doesn't do. Like they
No.
want to kind of
Yeah.
keep you guessing about who's just going to get in and get out pretty quickly and what's going to end up being a massive crisis because that's reality in an ER situation.
Yeah. I think it's one of the things that, I mean, completely outside the sound department, I think it's one of the things that our producers do incredibly well. I mean, just the whole conceit of having, somebody that's going to pop up as a major storyline in episode 6 is already in the waiting room in episode 2. And
Right.
as the camera pans past him, you can see him there.
When we did our coverage of the first episode, Mandy and I were talking about how we scanned the waiting room.
Yeah, for
Like,
season
okay,
2. Yeah.
or for season 2, I'm sorry. Like, who are we gonna see again? It's just like
Yeah.
because we didn't know that the first time, but now
Yeah.
it's like any of these people could become something major later on.
Yeah.
And this actually kind of ties into the next question, which is that one of the most standout moments the series has had so far was the honor walk. That's something that we talk a lot about, and everybody that we've interviewed, we've talked about that scene. Acting was amazing, but what was really unique was how quiet it was, with the exception of the sounds of the hospital. So, how do you work with that kind of silence when you're trying to keep a scene alive? Like, how do you use silence as a sound?
In most cases, that ends up being about contrast. And I definitely had that conversation with plenty of filmmakers or showrunners. Hey, I'd like to add this sound in this scene, not because it gains us anything for this scene, but I think we're going to gain a lot from the moment we take it away and how it's going to
Ah,
feel
Wow.
to take it away.
wow.
So if memory serves, I mean, episode 8 is raw. Episode
Mhm.
108 is raw for a number of reasons. If memory serves, we build up the activity of people waiting in the hall, just like spilling out into the hall from the room where Nick Bradley's parents are, and more people show up. More people show up. I think that we build the level of. I mean, I know, like it's not like bar wall, obviously, because they're like murmuring. They're all in mourning. But I think we build up the level of activity over the course of that episode, so that when it's actually time for the honor walk, I think he's on a portable ventilator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so then all that murmuring drops out, and it's just that rhythm and the steps as they go through. I don't remember for sure, but I don't think we ever even auditioned music there. It was always like, nope, this is just going to be what it is. There's some loop group. You know what loop group is?
Mm-mm. You got to talk to us like we're 4-year-olds, man.
Yeah.
Loop group is a group of actors, voice actors that only work on the ADR stage. They're not on camera at all. They're just the voices in the
Wow.
background.
I want
That's
that
people's
So,
job.
career.
I
oh yeah.
want that job.
That's fascinating.
And the pros, the people who are really good at it, have some amount of specialization, but they also have, a bunch of research, so they're ready for each new project or episode. And On our show, that means all medical jargon. So they'll play some casual stuff too, and they'll play patients and whatever. But they play a lot of nurses, like nurse patient pairs, in plenty of episodes of the bit. Like, okay, we're gonna get you set up in here. You're gonna be in room 13. Go ahead and get changed into a gown. Voices that are just happening in the background.
And these are just voices in the background, right?
Yeah, these as Robbie's walking by, you see a pair of people on camera. I have previously typed woman in purple pants and nurse right side of screen. Right. So I've prepped these cue sheets for our loop group, and we spend a whole day, 6 hours or something, I don't know, recording all of the voices for all the people in the background. Some of whom are specifics on camera, some of it's like a general recording of the sense of the room. Or if we go to chairs, the mood is obviously very different in chairs than it is in the hub, or North Quarter is a little bit calmer than the hub. I show them a map. Like I have a map of the pit.
That
That's one of
actually
our questions.
segues great into our next question. So we saw when we were doing a deep dive into your work that you mentioned you have an actual map of the faux trauma center to help with your
Yes.
sound planning. So tell us how that works and how that's helped.
In the first episode or two, I just asked for it. I was like, "Hey, I think if I'm right, we're closer to Dana's desk on this shot than in this other shot, right? Can I get a copy of the floor plan to make sure I've got the geography of this correct?" And they're like, "Oh, sure, we got plenty." Like all the picture editors have a map. I can't find mine. I used to have it right here. All the picture editors have one up, because sometimes you're like, okay, so wait, they're on South 17, so that means that oh yeah, they're right across from 21. So when that patient starts freaking out in 21, she'd be really, really loud in this shot. And then we cut to Robbie as he's starting to run towards it. She's going to be quieter in that shot. And we move towards the screen. Okay, cool. So all those mixed decisions are informed by the real geography of the set. Now we're very lucky, I should point out, we're very, 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 very lucky that the floor plan of the set is the same as the floor plan of the fictional ED, right? Because
Right.
I've definitely worked on shows. Well, the show I did after season one of the Pit, I was like, man, that was so helpful. Hey, can I get a floor plan for the medical examiner's office or whatever on the next show that I did? And they were like, sure. Here's the floor plan for the set, and it's just like a bunch of rooms in a row.
You're like, that's not helpful.
For like where they shot it, like that doesn't have anything to do with the story of like how close this person's office is to that. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Thanks anyway. Yep. Never mind. So,
Yeah.
so we're very, very lucky that's 1-to-1 on the Pit, and it's a very, very useful reference for that reason. And it helps us have a visual reference for all those choices we have to make for perspective, for distance. Oh, so if a voice is supposed to come from further away, then that means the volume comes down a little bit, the reverb comes up a little bit, right? Because it's echoing
Right.
through a larger space. Roll off some of the high end EQ, so it's not muffled exactly, but the frequencies that you hear better when you're up close aren't there anymore. You know what I mean? We have all these methods to make something sound further away or closer, and so yeah, all that informs those decisions.
Wow.
It's just amazing how much work goes into
It goes
all
deep.
of that.
We
Yeah.
go deep. Don't let anybody tell you that the sound department goes shallow.
No, that's like, I'm just in awe of how good at your job that you have to be able to anticipate these sorts of things. And it really pays off.
That's not it.
Oh, look at that. Okay, y'all.
Becky's got that hanging in her bedroom too.
No, I don't. I was like, can you get me one of those? He just held up a lovely photo of
Season 1 Pitt poster.
my sweetheart, Noah Wiley, as Dr. Robbie.
I thought I had a map rolled up here somewhere. I mean, I pretty much got the thing memorized now, but it was very, 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 very helpful season 1.
Yeah, you want to find that because one day you're going to want that as memorabilia. Maybe you're not as obsessed with like keeping every little scrap and tittle of your life as I am.
Yeah, we like to hang on to things.
Some call it hoarding. I call it being my precious memories.
Exactly.
So the next question we have is that the camera is constantly moving as we follow the staff and the patients through each hour. Can you tell us how you work with the off-camera sound so that it feels like you're really in the emergency department? And I feel like you've kind of
touched a little bit on that.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with that concept of perspective, because there's doors between chairs and triage, and there's doors between triage and the ED proper. But other than that, there aren't doors between the different wings. We decided as a convention that, like in the first couple episodes of season one, we decided as a convention that the North Corridor was just calmer than the central work area, or the hub, like where Dana usually hangs out, where the screens
Mhm.
are, where the
Hmm.
big boards are. That's the busiest place because Dana is the nerve center, like so many decisions come through her
Mhm.
and whoever she's delegating to in the moment, that we always play it that things get busier as we get closer to that area. So, whereas on a lot of television shows, you would do hard cuts between the calmer area and the more busy area, with very short fades, like maybe 2 or 4 frame fades between, and you know,
Yeah.
a lot of shows we would make those hard cuts. On our show, we extend those fade ins and outs by a long time, like a few seconds, so that our mixers can shape a little bit and get the transition from right in front of the ambulance bay doors. You know, we're exaggerating the difference between standing in front of like the ambulance bay doors, or the radio room where security officer Ahmad hangs out. It's probably only 25, 30 yards to where Dana stations herself. We exaggerate the sonic difference between those places, and most times.
You make more of like a sonic distance than
Exactly.
exists in reality.
Yeah. But it's still fluid, between here and there. So it isn't a hard cut anywhere along the way, or even like
Right.
from north corridor to central to south. There's no hard cut anywhere. It's just like the activity of the calmer, lower toned voice people in north just like fades out, and the higher energy, talking a little bit faster people that are in central fades in over the course of the 3 seconds that it takes for McKay and Javati to walk around the corner and come in.
It kind of mirrors the camera working in that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is the very rare show where I move the microphone in the loop group session while the actors are stationary to to track the motion of the camera. So I'll set up 4 people in North Corridor talking at a slower rate, at a lower pitch, and I'll station 4 people, you know, 10, 12 feet away in a group talking at a higher energy level. And I will swing the microphone from pointing at these people to moving away from them in the little hallway between, and then moving over and pointing towards the central hub people. And so you get the sense of that motion that tracks with the camera movement.
That is incredible.
To clarify what you're talking about, the loop group folks, I want to make sure I understand, and you maybe said this earlier and I missed it. I apologize if that's true, but are you guys on set when you're recording this? Are they there, or is it just like a reconstructive with just kind of the basic same acoustics using the map?
The acoustics are the same. The stage where we record, the ADR stage where we record, it's a recording booth. It's just big enough to hold a lot of people.
Gotcha.
On a feature film, you might have 12 loop group actors. We have 8 on the pit.
And that's a lot for a show, is it?
Yeah, it's larger than average. It's about average. I've done some shows that were really, really budget constrained and could only afford 6 actors, and I've done some that had 8 or 10. It just varies on the show.
And just to clarify that, because I'm really fascinated by that whole concept. So when we're watching the show and we see people talking in the background, are you saying like most of the time that's not the actual people, like when they're shooting the scene?
They're never talking.
Wow.
Isn't that
Yeah,
crazy? Like
I
he's
did not know
inserting
that.
all of that. Like how
yeah.
much of the machines when they're doing procedures, how much of the machines are actually being recorded as they're doing a procedure? Like it sounds to me like what you and your group do is a lot of the bulk of the sound that we hear in the show outside of the voice of the actors. So you're touching everything.
Yeah, the priority for the production sound mixer, Von Varga on the pit, is only to capture the dialogue from the actors, and in fact anything else is in the way. So the beeps from heart monitor, pulse ox, the alarms that go off. We have 3 separate alarms that go off for pulse ox, for blood pressure, for heart rate, either too low or too high. And there's another alarm for when, what was that? Episode 7 or so in season 1. Somebody threw a, oh man, I'm going to forgetting some of the medical terminology that I learned. Oh no, Dr. Joe would be so disappointed.
We've already established we're dummies. You can call it
Anyway,
that whatchamacallit thingy, and we're fine.
there's a particular condition. It's not RPV. It's a 3-letter initialism. I forget now. Anyway, we made a special alarm for this case. Anyway, none of that's playing on set. The ventilators are not playing on set. In fact, the sound of the ambu bag, the thing that they squeeze
Mhm.
Yeah.
to force air to help people breathe, that doesn't really get captured on set at all. We add all that.
That is insane.
The gurneys, very rarely, they're pretty well oiled on set. They're designed to be quiet. They've modified it to make them quiet, I believe. We add the sound of the wheels and the rattle. All that stuff is us. The way that the beds move during chest compressions, that's added. The motorized hand sanitizer, that's really happening. Yeah.
Dude, wow. I'm in awe. I am in absolute awe. I can't wait to watch another episode, and I'm gonna have to probably watch 3 times before we podcast because I know at least one of those times I'm just gonna be listening.
Yeah.
Almost like close your eyes and just listen.
I mean, it's all about control. If they modify, the classic thing is putting felt on the bottom of actors' shoes. I don't know if they do that on the pit or not. Maybe, probably. I don't know. But it's a small, mostly invisible thing that people can do on movie sets to reduce the sound of the shoes. Like you're going to want the sound of those feet in there later, but priority one every day, all day is to record the dialogue as cleanly as you can.
Right.
It's easy to add the footsteps later, but not as easy to book an actor to come back and shoot their lines because there were footsteps all over.
Right.
Nobody
Yeah.
did that for footsteps, but you take my meaning.
So how long does it take you to do this per episode on average?
The whole sound job
Yeah.
takes my team 7 days of editorial and then 4 days of mixing it.
That seems incredibly fast to me for the amazing work that you do.
Thank you. I feel like we're moving pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot to get done. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just still like absolutely amazed at how much of that you add into the story. Well done. Your whole team's doing great.
Like, the medical instruments, we're adding in the little clamp of hemostats.
Right.
We're adding in, like rib spreaders and then the gore of like the meat scissors.
Mandy's favorite.
Ugh, Becky, I hate medical stuff. So I made her do Welcome to Dairy while the pit was on hiatus, and she's terrified of clowns. Last week, the maggots, that is literally my biggest fear in life. So
it's like you brought some friends.
We just like to torture each other. Yes, that was, oh man, that was rough. And I know that we just keep saying that we're in awe, but it's just because we are we were already like aware of how much sound is in the background. It's just that we really had no idea that that is not being captured live in the moment. And this is all stuff that you have to be responsible for going back and layering in, and you just don't miss a beat. I mean, because it's never been obvious to us in any way, shape, or form that was movie magic and not what was being captured while they were filming.
Yeah, and it's obvious. It's obvious how everyone that we've talked to who's worked on this show cares about it, but listening to you describe swinging the microphone, so you get that it's the transition that you're moving away from these people, just those details that some people might not bother with, but that actually make this show so much better. So I don't have a hat on, but if I did, I would tip it to you and your team because that is amazing.
Thank
and speaking of your team, we're actually have an interview scheduled with Gavin Brivik in a couple of weeks.
Oh, great.
To talk about his work on the show. So how much collaboration is involved between the two of you to blend the scoring and the sound? Is there a lot of overlap? How does that relationship work?
So really, we enjoy seeing each other. We get along very well, but we don't collaborate that much, to be honest with you. We'll talk through some things during spotting, because because he comes to the same spotting session that I do with posting.
Mhm.
We'll talk through some things if there's a potential conflict, if there's some more constant tone to one of the machines that he needs to be aware of when he's putting in his music. That's a place where the two sounds could rub against each other, and we want to avoid that most of the time. But by and large, because this is different on different shows, but we don't do any abstract sound design on this show. Like, everything that we do is in service of realism on this
Mhm.
one. So some of the places in which on other shows, the line gets blurry between, sound effects, sound design, and music composition doesn't really exist because I'm not putting anything. My team and I aren't putting anything into the show that wouldn't play in a hospital. We're not introducing some, like, oh, here's a textural element for the mood.
Right.
Like, that's not what we do. We might use the sound of, I don't rule out the possibility that we would use like a sound of a slightly tonal thing, like a high flow oxygen, or BiPAP or something, as a tension element, but it's not going to come anywhere near sounding like the music that
Right.
Gavin adds. So we don't get in each other's way on this show.
I have noticed that before. Honestly, that is one of the things that, as ignorant as I am about stuff like that, that I have appreciated about your work in the past, is that I have definitely noticed that there are scenes where those tones, it's almost like music.
Well, the honor walk was like that.
Right.
That was silent, but the subtle nuance and sounds.
Where you chose to insert sound, it was very
Yeah.
obviously in service to the atmosphere.
It made us feel as much as if a gorgeous emotional score was playing
But
behind
kept you in the
it.
moment.
So
Yeah.
that's a testament to y'all for doing that so
When
well.
he is going to add music, like, do you get a script at some point that tells you, like, Gavin's going to have a snippet of a song here, or is that just something that's completely separate from your process that just gets done?
We talk about it in spotting. We talk through the moments in spotting.
That's part of what you cover in that. Got you. Okay.
Yeah. And so then, my team, while my team is cutting dialogue, sound effects, medical tech sound effects, Foley, ADR, and loop group, Gavin's working on composing whichever two, three, whatever, however many spots they decided they wanted some musical support. And some episodes don't have any score or music support at all, and it's just end title credit. It's just like the recap music and title
Right.
credits.
Yeah. I think that's actually
Um,
more often, isn't it?
I haven't really been keeping track, but it's pretty often.
It's pretty common.
It's just
Yeah.
like we don't feel like we need to cram music in just because the convention exists. We get into spotting and we're like, this scene feels like we know how tense it gets by the end, but we want to start that tension earlier. So let's try some music here. Yeah, we talk through it in spotting, and so while my team is doing all of that, Gavin's working on it, and then they come together on the mix stage. So the mix stage is the big room with the big screen, the credenza, where we can host all our producers. And you all might not know how this goes in
We don't.
Hollywood style. There are two mixers. One mixer is in charge of the dialogue, ADR, loop group, and the music, and one mixer is in charge of the sound effects, backgrounds, and Foley. They are on two separate sides of a mixed console. Those elements blend together, and we record the music that goes out to the people. And so, other than the music, I give those mixers every track that they're working with. And so, music shows up on day one of the mix, and that's the first time that we hear the new music composed against the picture. Again, up playing with the
See
episode.
how it works. God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I want to tell you before we move on, because I promised her I would. We were looking at your IMDb page, and I was sharing it with my daughter. She's deeply impressed for the first time in all.
Oh,
I think
great.
this is like what, our ninth or 10th interview that we've done with cast from different shows. This is the first time my kid's actually impressed, because you worked on Maxine and you worked on that Will Ferrell production where he was going to all of the different ballparks. Finally, she cares
Oh,
about.
yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. She wanted me to ask you if you met Mia Goth.
I met her. Yeah,
You did?
we shot our ADR in Burbank. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a huge Mia Goth fan. She's been trying to get me to watch the Maxine, that series, and I just can't get into it. It's just, I like horror, but it's just a little too stylized for me, and it's just not.
I would say that if you understand what the director is doing, it opens up another level of appreciation for what those movies are. Each of those is a little love letter to a style of filmmaking or an era. You know,
Hmm.
That's cool.
I love Maxine. It's not just that I like all those movies, but in terms of the movies that I respond to most and the references that he's making in the picture, I adore Maxine
They
and all
speak to you.
the homage to 80s style slasher movies, you know.
Oh, well, you know what? I didn't even try Maxine. What's the first one? Pearl? Was that the first in
This
the
first one's
series?
X. Yeah,
I think I tried to watch Pearl, and
yeah.
it just was so stylized that I couldn't really. I think I was expecting more horror and less. I don't know if camp is the right word, but I don't know. I love slasher movies, so I should try
Well, you
Maxine.
should definitely start with X then. That would give
That
you a
was
jump
more
start,
gory.
yeah, into the world. If you're if you're down with more of like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre style movie, you should start with X.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is much easier for me to watch than
Yeah.
people having their chests ripped open and maggots under
So
their.
cool.
Yeah.
So cool. And if you know anyone in the props department, please tell them we are really cool and would love to talk to them.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you get to mingle with craft services, but we really want to talk to somebody from craft services too.
very much.
Everybody talks about craft services and how amazing it is. I'm like, I want to meet the people behind craft services.
That's I don't usually interact with them too much because that's more of an onset sort of thing than post.
Nah,
Right.
Although I have been over there once or twice. I don't know anybody's name over there though.
I'd just be sneaking in to get donuts or whatever it is that they have, like just free food. Yeah. No joke, I was briefly in a cult as a child, and the way that they got me was free donuts and chocolate milk.
I mean, it's perfect setup. I get it.
yeah. Mandy has
I'd fall
stories.
for that too.
That's all it took. Yeah.
Give me cats and I'll be there.
How many puppies are in that van?
Yeah.
Brian just runs right in.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I saw your doggies on your Instagram page, and
Oh
I
yeah.
we didn't have time, but I wanted to get into your doggies because I've got three dum dums of my own. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, sweeties.
Yeah,
Oh, the
the
sweeties.
crazy one is upstairs watching basketball with my son right now, but I've got like my 90-pound toddler over there and my pug, who's my change of life baby.
We have two cats. No, we have two dogs and five cats.
I have 4 cats.
A majority of our animals just showed up. Like we didn't
They
adopt
picked
them.
you.
Yeah, they just showed up on the porch or on, you know.
There's a TikTok creator named Isabel Klee who works for a place called Muddy Paws Rescue. And she's amazing. She's one of the few good things in social media, period, ever. But she takes on like the worst of the worst cases, and she's phenomenal. Like the way that she can get these dogs back, like, that she only takes in like the worst ones that come into this rescue in New York City, and it turns their lives around and finds them new homes. And one of her dogs that went massively viral last year, named Tiki, looks a lot like one of your doggies. If you're ever bored and you do decide to be dumb and get another social media and look on TikTok, look up Isabel Clay because she's very inspiring.
The little brown one or the big white one?
The little brown one.
Yeah, that dog just showed up at our back gate,
Like,
wiggled
what's
his way
up?
past the gate in the post. He was so thin, he just wiggled his way in the gap in our gate on March 9th, 2020, like right before the
Right
pandemic
before
shut
the
everything
pandemic.
down. And that's my dude, man. That's Tycho. He's my small
Oh,
guy.
what's his name?
Yeah.
Tycho.
Echo. Oh, I like that.
Echo, like ECHO.
Oh no, Tycho.
Tycho, like Tycho
Taiko.
Bray.
Like the Tycho drums.
Oh,
Like
okay. I was thinking of I think he was an engineer, actually,
I
Tycho
thought it was a
Bray.
toy.
Yeah, I think it is a toy company. But either way, your doggies are very, very cute. And it's even
Thank you.
better knowing that you rescued them.
Oh, those are my sweeties.
My husband, for some reason, cats know that if they show up at his dumpster at work, we're going to save it. So we
Many
have,
times now.
yeah. Yeah. He texted me one day and was like, yeah, I did something. And I'm like, yeah, so you found another cat. We ended up, some of them we've found forever homes for, but a couple of them have stuck with us. And the last one we got, she had to have her back right leg amputated because she had a really bad. We found her at 6 months old, and she'd had that wound for a long time.
Mm.
Call her Finley because she's a brave warrior, and she's just the most precious thing on the planet. So
That's not what Becky's saying when she like walks out of the room and comes back and Finley's eating her buffalo wings
yeah, you can't leave food. I will say she's gotten better, but she stole many an item off of my plates.
Yeah.
Without me knowing. But I think it's because she scavenged for so long.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, there's food, I'm gonna get it. But I
Yeah,
think
food
now that she
insecurity.
realizes she is in fact going to get fed several times a day, she's okay now.
Yeah, Tycho doesn't care. Tycho's like remains a scammer. He's just like, yeah, I understand that my food bowl is full, but that doesn't mean that there's no chance that like cheese will fall off of the cutting board.
Right.
So why would I waste my time over there?
Right.
Right.
Like I know what the good stuff is, and I'm gonna sit
Yeah,
here and wait for it. Yeah, they're smart.
he's a born scammer. Yeah,
And get you every time too. You're like, fine.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm feeding my dogs from my plate, yelling about how did you guys get so spoiled that you just think you're entitled, as I am hand feeding them like filet mignon and just whatever we be having.
That's the only place I draw the line. I always mock it up to be an accident. It always only be like,
So you can fool yourself, or you fooling the cat. Which one do you think you're fooling?
It works. That's all it matters.
Just like gently brush off a couple cheese crumbs onto the floor. Oh, how'd that happen? I don't know, honey.
Look at that.
That's awesome. Well, before we go, is there anywhere else listeners can find you? Are there any causes? I cannot speak today. Any causes, pages, or anything else that you want to tell us about?
I am at Bryan Van Bryan. I used to have a van.
Oh, that's awesome.
I like my initially I only used Instagram I was restoring a '69 Dodge van.
Sweet.
So I
what were you
was
doing
Bryan.
with that guy?
I couldn't keep. I got too busy with work. I couldn't keep up with the rust, so I sold it.
Aw.
So anyway, it's Bryan Van Bryan on Instagram.com. And my company's Formosa Group, FORMOSA.
Would you like us to share? What's the name of the show? Mrs. Parker? Was that what the name
Mrs.
of it?
Davis.
Mrs. Davis. Would you like us to share?
Yes. Tell people if they're looking for a watch and they just can't wait for the next episode with Pitt or whatever, they want something completely different. Tell everyone you know to watch Mrs. Davis.
And where is that
Absolutely.
found?
It's on Peacock.
Peacock. Okay, very good. We'll include all of that in our show notes so our listeners can find you. And again, this has been, we were so nervous, but you were very cool and patient. So thank you for taking the
No
time to
worries.
explain all this. It's just fascinating. And I have a feeling us and our listeners are going to really appreciate, even more than we already do, what we watch over the next however many episodes because of this conversation. So thank you. And you're welcome back anytime. If you have anything you want, any other projects you've got or anything, just shoot us a message, and we hope to be here for a while. So let us know.
Thank you so much.
Well, that wraps up our interview with the amazingly talented Bryan Parker. Next up, we are going to be continuing our coverage of season 2 of The Pitt.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
I'm Bryan.
We'll catch you next week when we grab the remote and see what's on tonight.
Bye.
Bye.